All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to Just Got Played. I'm Steven, that's Erock. JJ is with us too. He's working on setting up his camera. Um,
Hello.
but there, you can hear him there in the background. So today we're going to be talking about IP games. And our plan today is we're going to talk about our three favorite top IPs in board gaming. And then we're going to tell you what our favorite board game based on an IP is. And then we're going to tell you what IP we wish had better board games. So that's the plan for the video today. Now, I don't think we all ever stopped and agreed on what IP means. I don't know, Erock, did you give much thought to that?
Yeah, I kind of went pretty traditional with the sense, a world, a vision, something like that, a grouping of things that happen in the same place.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it had to be across multiple media, right? So, whether it's books, movies, music, whatever, hey, whatever. And it couldn't. I didn't want to pick something that originated in board games either, right? I wanted to pick something that was originated outside of board games, but was brought into the world of board gaming. I mean, there's always the question about is like something that's public domain and IP, like Sherlock Holmes or Cthulhu or whatever. Um, it's,
I mean, I think so, right? But
well,
I see what you mean.
that's
Like,
what. Yeah, it's
there's a ton
complicated,
of
right?
like Everdell. So, but we're not going to talk about like that's all board games. That's really, its own idea inside its own
Yeah,
little
and
self-contained board game world. It's not really,
Gloomhaven is a board game and a video game, but not really. I mean, the video
but
game is just a
not
board
really,
game, right?
right?
So,
Yeah.
but there have
I
been some
mean,
board games that have crossed over, right? The Clue movie, right?
Which was fantastic.
Yeah,
Highly recommend the
and
Clue.
the Battleship movie, which I think is not. I haven't seen it, but I
Not
don't think is
fantastic.
fantastic, right?
hold
So,
on a second. Wait. Before you move on, hold on. Now, I did see the Battleship movie in theater, and they actually added some Battleship stuff going on. There was a point where it was like, it's Battleship. Okay, so yeah, there was bombing and then trying to hit the
but
ships. And yeah,
but was it good?
yes. No. I mean, for some reason, aliens came out of there. I didn't know if there's any lore in Battleship, but like aliens were introduced. That's what was trying to bomb the ships.
Hey, I mean, you can play Monopoly by buying French fries at McDonald's. Whatever. Hey, did you know that Terraforming Mars actually got optioned for a movie, as did Catan?
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that
I mean,
stuff
it's
going on.
just settling on Mars.
Well, some of these IP things are just a cash grab, right? I mean, that happens. So,
Yeah, look at Battleship. You just throw some aliens in there. So you have Mars and throw some aliens. You have a movie. So there you go.
all right. Well, let's get started with what we're doing for the video, and we'll start with the top three. So, again, this is the best IPs. These are your three favorite IPs that have the best tabletop games. All right. So let's start with number three, and Erock. You can go first.
Okay, so this was kind of a hard choice for me because apparently I like a lot of games that are in IPs. I really had to kind of like,
I'm the opposite.
yeah, it's weird, I really didn't think so. I mean, don't get me wrong, probably the vast majority of our games have nothing to do with anything. They're just, farming in the Mediterranean or whatever, but there are a lot of our collection that does come from something. My number three is going to be, as previously mentioned, Cthulhu. I think there are some really good games in that spot. Three off the top of my head: Mansions of Madness, obviously the app edition is fantastic. Arkham Horror. I've had a lot of fun playing Arkham Horror, and that game has gotten better through its iterations. I think the current one is probably the best. And Arkham Horror, the card game, I think is fantastic. These are three excellent games that are coming from the Cthulhu genre. You're going to see a common theme in my choices because I also am going to warn you now, there are a lot of not so great games in this IP, but there are some really good games here. And this is not something that I'm not a Cthulhu guy. Like, it doesn't really get me. So I think it really speaks to how good these games are that I like them so much. So that's my number three
Yeah, I mean,
is
that's
Cthulhu.
an interesting note because, yeah, I mean, there's some good Cthulhu games, but I'm not a Cthulhu guy either. I kind of just wish they had a different theme on them, most of them. Although Arkham Horror, right? Like, I can't see that. I
Yeah,
mean,
what's that?
you could do Alien Invasion or some other thing, but it's still just better as Cthulhu, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely. Incidentally, side note, Babe wasn't able to make it, but I do have her choices.
Oh, good. Go ahead. What's her number three?
Okay, so Tiffany's number three is going to be Runeterra, which is the land of League of Legends.
Oh,
And there's not a ton of stuff for that at the moment, but this is primarily mechs versus minions, and of course, League of Legends itself, because I'm not really trying to limit this to just board games also, although that is obviously our primary focus. But like there's a ton of Cthulhu video games. I'm not going to lead you towards one of them because I don't feel like any of them are all that good. But this is kind of the opposite of that. There's only really one board game, but it's awesome,
mhm.
and they made their mint off of their video game League of Legends,
Yeah.
and
And they
so
made a
this is
TV show on Netflix.
yep. And there's a
Cartoon,
Netflix
animated.
series,
Yeah.
and there's some things in the works. There's a couple of other projects they got under development, and
Did we talk about the video game?
well, yeah, the video game, and they're working on an MMORPG as well. So that's going to be like a year or two off. But, for 20 years, we've been waiting for something to knock World of Warcraft off its perch. I'm thinking this might be it, man. That is a very talented studio with a lot of talented people in it. And they just seem to just knock everything out of the park when they set their mind to it. It takes them time, but good. Take your time. Do something awesome. And maybe that's going to be the next big thing, and I'm kind of looking forward to that one as well. So that is her number three,
All
is
right.
Runeterra.
Cool. Well, JJ, what do you got at number three?
Shockingly enough, we had a big old discussion. First of all, hello, I'm back. I'm still alive. I've been back I've been out of there, but you see me weekly, but not on the live stuff. So I'm here. I was definitely the stickler in the group when we had the whole group discussion, because intellectual property is actually a specific thing, trademarkable. So yeah, I was very much a stickler. Like, what are we talking about? There's an actual definition for intellectual property, and it's like 4 different parts and everything like that. But
that's not the definition people use in the board game industry when they talk about IP.
yeah, I don't really. Yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I mean they can be wrong or right, whatever. I'm talking about the actual factual valid thing. So
He's disqualifying you, Erock. He's saying Cthulhu doesn't fit.
I will say that. As for my third, you will be shockingly enough to hear that it is Cthulhu. Yes.
Hey, crossover. Nice job.
Technically not an intellectual property because it's not trademarked, but it does cover a lot of bases. I understand what you're saying with Cthulhu because, like you, I like the Cthulhu theme on a board game. I don't really care about it specifically, but yes, Matches of Madness, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, all that stuff. I love the story behind it. Pandemic Cthulhu is amazing. There's
Death May Die. That's a great game.
Death May Die.
That's like the whole Cthulhu experience, like condensed into let's just fight it.
Yeah, there's
That's
the
really
other
good.
one. There's a little 4-person game that I can't think of. It's over here somewhere, but it's basically you're playing as the what is it, acolytes? What is the people the people that want the old ones to come around? You play as them, and you have an old one that you're trying to bring out. So instead of playing investigators trying to stop it, you're trying to bring it out. So I like that part of it. Anything that has to do with a heavy theme, and Cthulhu is weird too because there's no video games. You'll see Cthulhu, which is just like one of the popular ones in a game, like Smite or something like that. But there's no like Cthulhu video game, which is crazy because it's been around for so long.
They're just not that good or
no, they're
popular.
Cthulhu because it's not an IP. So you can have the stuff in there like Winnie the Pooh now. It's public domain. You can put it in stuff because there's no copyright. But there's no actual thing that says, here, this is Cthulhu, this is Arkham. Like you can use the Arkham name in TV shows and be supernatural and people can go there, but because it's not copyrighted. The characters aren't copyrighted, so you can just put it in stuff for the most part. But there was a TV show that came out recently. I think it was on Paramount Plus or something like that, that actually was like Cthulhu themed. So that's like the first thing outside of a book or a board game that I've seen that had like Cthulhu stuff. I'm not even counting comic books because those are all, you can't track all that. There's so much going on. But I was excited to see that they had a TV show. I didn't watch it because I don't think it only lasted 1 season or something like that. But anything with like the supernatural, like actually the TV show or anything that's based on Cthulhu, and has like Cthulhu elements in it, I enjoy, and I'm glad it's in a board game thing constantly. So yeah. Yeah, but I'm like you guys. I really don't care about it. I like it of the lore a little bit. Like, bringing out the old ones, but then like we played the Cthulhu thing at Steven's house recently. Tiny Epic Cthulhu.
Oh, Tiny Epic Cthulhu, right?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I mean, I liked it because it was Cthulhu, and then we had a video of that. But it was nice because it was Cthulhu, and I feel like Cthulhu is a mechanic now more than an IP. There's like Cthulhu mechanics in a game, and it's like if it's gonna be the hidden character, I'd rather play that than like Battlestar Galactica or something like that. So, yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah,
IP that's not an IP.
I considered Cthulhu as one of mine. Mansions of Madness is a great game. Eldritch Horror, Arkham Horror, I liked when I played it way back when. I don't really want to play it anymore. And Tiny Epic Cthulhu, I'm a backer of. But, so I considered it. But it's interesting. One of the reasons I considered it is I looked through the games that I like, and I looked through the games in my collection, and I just don't like a lot of IP-based games. I don't have a lot of them, and they're just my favorite games are just not IP-based. And so some of my list, maybe all of my list, is more about, I'll say, quantity over quality. So I decided to go that way. And in fact, my number 3 here is an IP that I don't actually care that much about. I don't really read comic books. I don't really read graphic novels, and I've only watched a handful of the Marvel movies. So I don't really care about Marvel as a theme, but when I go and look at my collection, I actually have a few Marvel games, right? I have that $9 Marvel United bundle that I got, and I play that with my kids, and it's fun. Back in the day, a couple years ago, for, I don't know, maybe their birthday or Christmas or something, we got them 5-Minute Marvel, right? And I play that with my kids, and it's fun. And I have 2 versions of Love Letter, but one of them is Infinity Gauntlet. And that one's different because it's 1 versus many, right? So it's sort of different from the other Love Letters enough that, because I don't need 20 versions of Love Letter, but if there are 2 that are different, fine. So when I think about it, it's like, well, okay, I've played some Marvel games and they're decent, and I have several in my collection. So, I went with Marvel, and I know there's a ton of Marvel stuff out there, right? There's Legendary Marvel and Marvel Champions, I think maybe is the highest rated game, correct. Right? So anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel showed up again on somebody else's list here today, but it ended up on mine just because there are several Marvel games that I have that I play with my kids. So there you go. My number 3, Marvel.
Ooh.
All right, so let's go to number 2, and I'll throw it back over to JJ.
Okay, so number 2 is probably a very unpopular opinion, but this one is actually an IP because it's trademarked and copyrighted. If you use the characters and names and locations in this show or movie or comic book and literally anything, you can get sued. Yes. And it's Pokemon. No, it's not Pokemon. Anyways.
Marvel.
It is shockingly Star Wars.
Ah.
Because I like space operas. I like operas in general, but I like operas in space. Once again, very much religious background. I would have very much been on the other side of the thing that's like Star Wars or Star Trek, but once again, I am a stickler. JJ is a stickler for this one because it started out very heated in the group discussion. There is a difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. One's nerdy, one's geeky. 2 different things. Religion versus space technology versus religion. Okay? But as a fan of one thing or another, I would just say Star Trek can be very dry. It hits my nerdy side, but I'm all about the religion and the midichlorians. Okay? And when we're talking about board games specifically, I mean, once again, the Star Trek board games are very dry, and the Star Wars games are very thematic. I will say right now, my favorites is definitely Outer Rim. I feel like I'm part of the Star Wars universe, going around getting all the characters. I just want to collect all the characters. So I'm like, IG-88, I got to go pick them up and bring them on my starship. And I love all the different names of the ships. I didn't even know they had all the names in there. Like Millennium Falcon actually has a model number. I didn't know that until I started playing the board games, which is interesting. And I unboxed the Star Wars deck builder, which is I'm very particular with my deck builders, and this one was actually pretty good. We're not going to talk about these ones over here, which they just kind of slap something on there, but I'll get to that later in the video. But very thematic is the Star Wars deck builder. It's only 2 players, which is very unfortunate, but you do feel like you're either the Empire or the Rebels trying to fight your thing. And once again, I like collecting all the different things because all the different names and people and vehicles and everything like that. If I could be a rebel, I want to see Chewbacca back in that at Walker, but it can't do it, unfortunately, in Star Wars, the deck builder. But yes, and I played all the Now, okay, I'm a big TCG player. I'm probably the only one in the group that played multiple TCGs and the Star Wars. I forgot what it is now. But anyways, it had dice and cards. So that was a big thing. Very thematic in that as well. You could mix and match the heroes and villains, which was not very triggery for very much a geeky person like me, because you had like Jabba the Hutt with Han Solo, and you could do that as a team. And it was like, what is going on? And you had all the new people with the old people in there. But it was great as well.
Is that Epic Duels? Is that what you're talking about?
Huh?
Is that Epic Duels? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
this is just the TCG.
There's like I'll look it up. I still have the card. Huh?
It was an LCG.
That was just the TCG, right? Or the
Star Wars Destiny.
Yeah.
It was unique because it had dice associated with the character cards, which is different than pretty much every other TCG out there. And they have a new TCG coming out, which I'll look into. Maybe you'll see some cards for it. But yes, Star Wars just continues in the story. I don't know what they're doing. I don't play the miniatures game, whatever the one it is, but it still looks amazing. I mean, you have all the X-Wing and stuff. I'm pretty sure Star Wars is competing with like Warhammer and stuff for like minutes. Like it competes with every mechanic. So let's just put it that way.
Star Wars competes with everything about everything.
Yes. I mean, if you don't read the comic book, so you're missing out on some great storylines, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the Star Wars IP was already pervasively licensed before Disney got a hold of it, and then they just upped the ante on that one. So yeah, there is Star Wars everywhere, everything, all at once. No, that's something
Everything, everywhere. Oh.
All right, Erock, what is Tiffany's number 2?
So Babe's number 2 is going to be Warcraft.
Ah, okay.
And this spans over multiple media. We do have a number of the board games and stuff. We have the Warcraft, the board game, which is giant coffin box. We played a ton of that back in the day. There's Warcraft, the adventure game, which I know is out of them Babe's favorite one. There's a miniatures game that we used to play back in the day as well. It's been quite a while. It was kind of a skirmish kind of a miniatures game, not a whole on like
I didn't know about
Warhammer kind of thing. That was a lot of fun. And obviously all of the video games, the Orcs and Humans, all the way up through Warcraft 3.
There's a pandemic, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, there is. And also we have a Small World of Warcraft. Which is a really good take on that game, quite frankly, because it just kind of gives you a couple more things to do in Small World if you want to. You don't even have to. You can just play regular stuff. Huh?
We'll say the movie was amazing as well.
And yes, the movie was, I thought so too. I thought it was very good. It got really bad reviews, but I liked it. I thought it was really good. And of course, overarching everything is the World of Warcraft, which I, already mentioned briefly in here. And that's something that her and I have both been playing for almost 20 years. I mean, it's been off and on, but still, I was there at launch and I'm playing now. So, well, not right now, but right before we started this video, I was, you know what I'm saying? So I like her pick. Warcraft, that's a good choice. The board games are kind of big and sprawling, but if you really like the world, I think they do a really good job representing the world. So Warcraft is Babe's number 2.
I played World of Warcraft for maybe 1 or 2 months, and then I was like, oh, I gotta hit the eject button because I don't see the bottom of this hole. Like
there is no bottom.
I'm out. I can't do this. This is too much.
See, it's absolutely Warcraft, right. I don't know if I can play the video game. I'm an OG Warcrafter, so I need to hear that work, and
I was always hoping they'd come out with a new one of those. Those were so much fun.
They might.
But they just kind of shifted gears and went to StarCraft. But but it's all still a lot of fun. So
all right. Well, what's your number 2?
Okay, so my number 2 is actually my favorite IP. I just don't think my number 1 just has better games. Okay. But my number two
Oh,
choice is Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
It's my favorite IP. It's one of those things like when I was in middle school, I was introduced to The Hobbit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like one of those things like I'd do a book report, I don't know what to do. And then somebody was like, well, you should read The Hobbit. And, from that, I just deep. I went in, man, because I just love it. I love that it was basically the beginning of the entire fantasy idea that we know of today. Like it all basically started there. And yeah, I mean that was built off of like myths and legends and folklore and stuff like that, but it was really the first time anybody really gathered all this stuff together and then made a world. And then of course Tolkien is just a genius, like because he's like linguist. So the whole point of this world was just to make up these languages for all these different races. But meanwhile, he made a really awesome series of stories and world building and all of that along with it. I think, well, if you've heard me talk at all, I love War of the Ring. That's fantastic. So this is going to lead the charge here with this IP, but there's a lot of good offerings here. Battle of Five Armies. I have not played it, but it's supposedly a really good war game. They have actually a series. You can go to Ares Games and get, I forget what the connector is. Maybe it's Fate of Erebor, but you can actually play these games out like in order and they affect each other. So you can start with like Battle of the Five Armies and then you work your way. Then however that goes is going to influence. And then you go to Hunt for the Ring, which is kind of a 1v1 hidden movement game. And then the way that that goes will influence how you set up War of the Ring to play basically the rest of the story from Rivendell to the end. And I really love the IP. These are some really good games here. We have the Lord of the Rings. What's the one
Journeys in
that's
Middle
basic?
Earth.
Yeah, Journeys in Middle Earth. It's basically like a redo kind of the Mansions of Madness system, which as we've already talked about, I love that. So it's an IP really full of a lot of really good games. Now, out of all of them, all of my choices at least, this is probably also the one with the worst games because there have been a lot of games that have come out and a lot of them have been movie cash grabs and just kind of using the name and things like that. But if you know what you're doing or listen to people like us or whatever and you really like it, there's really good games out there. I really love Lord of the Rings and I think there are enough games to justify it being highly ranked.
Well, speaking of cash grabs, well, we've talked about Star Wars and Marvel, and okay, so I am again on my number two on the sort of quantity over quality train because this is a series, and it's because I play these with my kids, and it is Pokemon, and so the original Pokemon trading card game, right? Like my kids play that, and so I will play that with them. I don't particularly like playing it with them, but the cards are neat, whatever. Like we'll play it. But aside from that, I like other games where with Pokemon just sort of slapped onto them, partially because they'll get my kids to play it. So, for instance, I wasn't really ever a big fan of Point Salad, but I got the Eevee edition from Korea with all the different evolutions of Eevee, right, that you collect instead of vegetables. And I like that better, right? And of course my kids will play it with me. There is, and some of this is just fan made stuff. I have a box copy of Zularetto, and then somebody made for me off of print files from Board Game Geek. There's like Pokemon instead that you put in your zoo instead of all the other stuff. So I've got Zularetto with Pokemon. There's Carcassonne with Pokemon. And of course, as you mentioned, Erock, like I played one of the old Pokemon games on this that they remade for the Switch, right? Where you just run around and you throw the balls and you catch the things or whatever. Like I enjoyed that. I never played those when I never.
Game?
What?
I said every Pokemon game.
Well, yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember which one it was a remake of, like Red or Blue or Diamond or what. They've all got names that don't mean anything. Meaning you can't map the name to something logically in the game to remember which one's which. That's what I mean.
I mean, yes.
You can?
Okay. Continue. Yes, you can.
Well, I don't know.
Fans
Okay.
can.
Well, the one on the Switch, it might have been the first remake of an old one from the Game Boy for the Switch, and you could get the Pikachu or the Eevee edition of the game, right? So what color was that a remake of?
The character that was, I believe, Sword and Shield. It was special because the character was named Red instead of Ash, which is a deep cut for Pokemon fans. But like I said, continue.
Ash
There's a
was
deep
in the
dive.
game.
I have a note after you're done.
Yeah, but whatever. So anyway,
Exactly. That's why I didn't say it.
Anyway, it's again for me that's more sort of quantity over quality. Like you would never get me saying Point Salad is my favorite game to play or anything like that. But I've got it gets my kids to play these games with me. So slap that Pokemon theme on there. I'm good with that. Just to get more plays to the table with my kids. So yeah, my number 2, Pokemon. All right,
So,
let's.
Little note about Pokemon
Yeah.
and Nintendo in general. The reason why you don't see so many Pokemon stuff around because you can't use the name of the characters and can't really use the likeness, but you can have like a stuffed animal and look like Pikachu. You just can't call it Pikachu. That's why you see
Like
it at Six
Pal
Flags
World?
and all those places.
R.E. Pal World.
Pal-
Nintendo is a notorious a-hole when it comes to their copyrights because you can only specifically put it on certain things. That's why you don't see a bunch of stuff with Pokemon on there. Just a little note. We have a certain team member that wanted to come up with a Pokemon game, but he'll never be able to get the license. But if we ever have a chance to play it, I don't know if he wants to put it out there before he can. Yeah, the license is amazing, but he has a great version of Pokemon that he's been trying to put out there. But like I said, the Nintendo company is a big old a-hole. And if you have heard of this channel called No Ordinary Gamer, there's a guy on there that has very much fighting game thing going on, and the whole like license part of it is a very big thing. If you know a game called Smash Brothers, that has like Nintendo properties, including Pokemon characters on there, and yeah, they have a limit on how many times you can stream a tournament for that game. So that's how much of an a-hole Nintendo is. So this is why I get triggered with the IP stuff because you can't have Spider-Man in a Marvel movie unless Sony said so. But anyways,
that's funny. You would think it would be fair use since you own the thing, but whatever. Who cares?
Don't get me on licenses.
It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. Their army of lawyers will crush you regardless.
Exactly. Don't put anything in there. They will try to bankrupt you, Nintendo. Yes.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to number 1s, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw my number 1 out there because it's already been mentioned, and it is Star Wars. So I am a big fan of Star Wars.
I'm just going to jump in here with you. This is also my number 1.
All right. So. Yeah. So this is, as an intellectual property across all kinds of media, I like this. There are a lot of good Star Wars games that I have not played. I haven't played Outer Rim, although I really think I would like it. I haven't played Queen's Gambit, which is like a grail game for some people. I haven't played Epic Duels, which is what Unmatched was remade from Epic Duels, right? I have Imperial Assault, but I haven't played it yet. X-Wing, I haven't played. But you know what? I looked around my house, and I have a ton of games where the Star Wars IP was just slapped on there, right? Because when I find myself just buying a generic game, I'm like, oh, there's the generic game, but with Star Wars slapped on there, I'm going to get that version. So, when my kids were growing up, I was like, oh, I could get the Life game for them. That's a game that kids play. But then I saw there was a Star Wars version called A Jedi's Path. So I went out and got that version.
Oh, that's cute.
Right? I don't have Risk. I have Star Wars Risk.
Star Wars Monopoly.
I had Suro, and I actually gave it away to my parents because I got a copy of Asteroid Escape, which is just Suro of the Seas with a Star Wars theme, taped on. And I mentioned earlier that I had 2 versions of Love Letter. Well, the basic version of Love Letter I have is the Jabba's Palace one, the Star Wars version, right? So I don't have Star Wars Monopoly, but I have played it, and it's better than regular Monopoly. I actually have Dungeons and Dragons Monopoly because that's what my kid wanted. But anyway, I didn't mention the best Star Wars game out there. Most people say it's the best. It is certainly the most thematic, and it is the one people will describe as just the first 3 movies sort of as a board game experience, and that is Star Wars Rebellion.
Absolutely. And this spearheads my number 1 campaign here. Rebellion is fantastic. It is the Star Wars version of War of the Ring for Lord of the Rings. It's the entire saga in a box that you get to play out. It's fantastic. Absolutely. There are a ton of great Star Wars games. That's what I'm saying. I agree 100%. It's number one. I agree with JJ that it's on his list at all. I mean, it's just because I don't know how you could do this list and not have Star Wars on there. There are so many good Star Wars games out there. And Martin made a comment in the chat, like you get a Star Wars license and you get a license and you get a license. Yeah, they're not very picky with their licenses, but man, that kind of works out because like you said, like you can get a Star Wars version of almost anything. And if you have any interest in the IP at all, it draws you in. Something that, people wouldn't necessarily want to play. They're like, oh, well, I understand Star Wars. It makes sense to me that, I'm Luke, you're Vader. I get it.
Midichlorians. Midichlorians.
Midichlorians.
Midichlorians, yes, exactly. I mean, as far as it goes, I actually like Star Trek better than Star Wars, but I agree with JJ. Star Trek games are kind of dry and they're not all that great, and Star Wars games are everywhere and they're fantastic. Rebellion, like I said, absolutely. Outer Rim for sure. Imperial Assault is really good. I had a lot of fun playing that. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's Star Wars easy for me for number one.
Yeah. So, JJ, what is your number one?
Actually, I'd like to go last. So what is Tiff?
Okay. All right. What's Tiffany's?
Absolutely. Babe's number one IP is D&D. A lot of this has a lot to do with her coming into the hobby. And at that point, there were games like Castle Ravenloft and Legend of Drizzt. And there's another one in that same vein. Shardalon. That's right.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, as far as board games go, the crowning achievement over all of them is Waterdeep. Waterdeep is fantastic. The expansions on it are great. I will absolutely unless I'm playing with really, really base, never played a game before people, I'm absolutely playing with the corruption mechanism every time because it's absolutely fantastic. That's a really good game. It's for a long time there, they considered it a gateway game for Dungeons and Dragons people. Like you want to get Dungeons and Dragons people into board gaming,
like a Euro game, right?
Play Lords of Waterdeep. Yeah, this is what you can do with board games, and people would see that and be able to make that bridge. So I think that's another excellent choice. There are a ton of D&D stuff out there. And this one kind of is what you were talking about. This is the one that started kind of as a board game because it wasn't really a board game, it was a role-playing game. But this is the one that started there and then branched out. Now there's all kinds of movies and TV shows and stuff and all kinds of stuff that they've done in the Dungeons and Dragons world. And, it's just all over the place. And especially lately, the last 4 or 5 years, it's really I don't know, it's almost like it just became accepted as norm. So then it just exploded a lot more even on top of all that. So her number one pick is Dungeons and Dragons, and another fine pick. There's a lot of good games out there.
Did anybody watch the movie?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was really good.
I enjoyed it.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm an OG D&D movie person, okay?
I understand. You might have some complaints about this or that, but it's thoroughly enjoyable.
I got a DVD of the original D&D cartoons for my kids to watch since they saw the movie.
Yes,
and liked it,
those are actually pretty good. A lot of them are on YouTube. So yeah, go back and watch those every now and then. And it's also weird. There's a little note here with Cthulhu, D&D, and Magic, where they are more board games, RPGs, or whatever, but they don't have a lot of other media with them. I can't think of any video game or any kind of movie.
Well, D&D board games, there's a ton. I mean, you can go all the way back to Baldur's Gate and do all 3 Baldur's Gates up through there. There's Neverwinter Nights, there's Icewind Dale, there's all kinds of. There's a MMORPG in D&D.
Yeah. They stay on the table, but I can't think of movies and TV shows but it's been around for decades, and yet you still don't see any of that.
There's not a ton of movies and shows, I'll grant you. But there was the cartoon, like Steven was saying. The movie that came out was really good. I expect there's going to be another one of those because it was really good and really popular. So
I like the cartoon too, by the way. It's pretty good.
By the way, Martin Pring called out Star Wars Villainous, and that is an example of if I didn't already own Villainous and I wanted to go get Villainous, I would get the Star Wars version.
Animated one, Martin? You talking about the D&D?
What?
He asked the question in the chat.
Oh, the animated one? Yeah, the animated cartoon, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The animated cartoon.
Yeah, there's no live action D&D. What's up with that? TV show. That's crazy. After all this time.
Not TV show. You're right. Well, somebody's going to make one eventually.
It would have been, it would have been expensive to do. It would require a lot of high-end CGI to make it.
Well, yeah, but not any more than
The Hobbit? What the heck?
Yeah,
Is that
never
a
mind
TV
the Hobbit.
show?
The Hobbit
No,
movie.
not really.
I'm talking
saying,
about a TV show though. Like if you're gonna make
But-
a TV show,
They've
it
had a
doesn't
lot of
have
fantasy
to be
TV
that much.
shows
It could
out
be
there
a whole
that
lot
get
like
it.
Game of Thrones, really. And
yeah,
the only
you're right. It could be.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
pretty much the same thing. So yeah, there's plenty of.
I mean, there's obviously
Yeah,
more
but
magic.
that's why I'm
involved,
saying why
because
you didn't
of
get it in the
ninjas and
80s and
sorcerers
then-
and things like that. But it could be more grounded like Game of Thrones style.
Yeah, but we're
Even
getting
something like The Witcher. I think is pretty much a parallel.
Yeah,
Listen, we
we're
got
getting to
Xena
where
Warrior Princess and Hercules. Okay, we could have got a D&D.
Oh, I see your point. We're getting to the point where that's a feasible thing to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you didn't get it in the 80s and 90s, but now maybe you will. All right, JJ, what's your number one?
Okay, so JJ the Stickler here. We're gonna go back in. I have a question for you boys related to our previous discussion. Okay, my last IP is gonna come out of nowhere. You guys aren't gonna expect it. But as far as the storyline, okay, the options you have out of all the IPs you can think of, okay, plot points. Can you name one that has all of these things here? And I'm only gonna name like 5 or 6. Okay, has zombies, has time travel, has religion, basically gods and devils, has aliens, has fantasy elements in it, magic and yada yada yada, sci-fi in there, superpowers. Okay, did I mention multiple dimensions? Okay, remember I said zombies, right?
I'm buzzing in.
Can
It's
you
Marvel.
say? Can you think of anything that
Marvel.
has all of that? What?
Marvel.
There you go. We would have taken DC as well. We would have taken DC as
That's true. They're about the same.
well. So, if you're talking about the IP of IPs, and you're talking about options, okay? Gotta go with Marvel. It's just better than DC as far as board games are concerned, which I'm going to just do because we're not going to talk about all the many iterations that are out there. Now, Steven said it before, but these people here, my crew members wanted to say, what's the IP of IPs? I mean, the options, okay? And you want to say superheroes aren't your thing, but there's a guy on this channel particularly that has a weekly playthrough recorded called, with Marvel Champions, okay?
It's pretty
I would say
good.
that's
Pretty good.
pretty
stuff.
good. As a guy that does not like solo play, it's the one game I can see myself solo play. And unlimited amount of options, okay? There's multiple universes out there in the Marvel world. They haven't even gone over all the other things, okay? But they just came out with Marvel Zombie Side, so everybody got to see the zombie part of it. I've been yelling about that for years because that's a whole storyline right there. That's amazing. Yes, Thor can be killed. He's a god, but he can still die and come back as a zombie. And then he's going to eat people. And the Avengers came back as zombies and they ate Galactus, okay? That was part of the storyline. They ate Galactus. They ate him. There's nothing but bones left of Galactus, okay? So if you want to talk about IP of IPs, it's Marvel. That's all there is to it. And like you said, there's so many options. I could go into the mechanics.
Yeah, I kind of
What-
get what you're saying as far as it goes, because it's really the only one where they have established a metaverse of which there are multiple realities. So
And
really,
storylines.
they
There's
could do
so many
anything that they
plots.
want and just
Yes.
call it a different dimension.
And let's talk about game mechanics. What IP has a dice game? What IP has an RPG? What IP has a deck builder? What IP
Star
has, I
Wars
don't even
has-
know what you would call
Star Wars
United.
has
What is that,
everything.
Rondell time clock thing? I don't even know what has, what is United? I can't even
Yeah, like a rondelle, pretty much.
Yeah, sure. What
It's
IP has all those
not
things
Rondell,
already
Marvel
built into
United.
it?
You
What?
can't go around in a circle. That's
I don't know. Whatever.
just
My
take a
point
turn.
is, you want to talk about IPs of IPs, okay? You got it. It is very blurry right now, but Spider-Man is there visiting Queens, okay? So there you go. I rest my case, judges.
I did look up the highest
They
grossing
approved.
media franchises of all time, and we hit on some of them, but not a lot of them. Because, well, I mean, a lot of them, they probably just don't have board games. But do you know what the number one highest grossing media franchise of all time is?
Which one?
I thought it was Marvel.
No,
For what?
Marvel's way down there. It's Pokemon.
Yes. Everybody knows this.
Ah.
Yeah, and then it's Hello Kitty is second.
Yes.
What?
And then Winnie the Pooh, and then Mickey Mouse, and Star Wars, and Pan Man, and Disney Princess, and Mario, and
Wait,
something
what was your
else,
question
and
exactly?
Harry
I don't know
Potter,
if I
and
should
then
be
finally
surprised by
Marvel.
that answer.
Harry Potter is more than Marvel. What?
What is your What were you saying? The number one what?
Highest grossing media franchise of all time. So
Oh,
video
yeah,
games,
that's
merchandise,
good.
trading cards, comics,
Yeah,
box
yeah,
office,
that's
home
too obvious.
entertainment, book sales, TV
There's
revenue,
no
music,
there's no
museums.
Marvel TCG. There's no like video game series that continues because the Marvel video games suck. But
That's
Pokemon's
true.
the constant thing.
That
There's a
is their
TV
weak
show that's
spot
been
for
going
sure.
on for like 30 years now.
Actually,
Okay, there was
most
a
of it's-
worldwide celebration for the 20th. Like you had
Most
a
of
worldwide
it's-
celebration.
Most of its money
Worth
it comes from merchandising, actually.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Well, I mean the card games. The cards.
No.
Like,
I don't. I mean, not the card games. I mean,
Yeah, like buying little
stuffed animals
teacups
and
and
stuff.
a shot
Yeah.
glass
Yeah.
that says it,
Yeah.
you know.
all that stuff.
And
Yeah.
you know, I'm just saying, their video games have there have been a lot of good options in the
Pokemon
past
Go?
few years.
Remember Pokemon Go?
well, I
That
mean-
was sort of a big deal.
I mean, Marvel, like
Marvel.
Marvel Midnight Suns, that's a really good game. There's a ton of people that play Marvel Snap. Like they're starting to come into their own.
Is that though, or is that just in
not
our
gonna compare
little
to Pokemon,
in
though.
our little clique? A lot of people play it versus
Yeah.
a lot of people play it. I
No,
don't
a
know.
ton of people play Snap.
Oh, really?
It's got a long way to catch up to Pokemon though. That's the
Oh,
problem.
well, yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So
But, you know,
highest grossing does not equate to best. You know, when
It's
but
100%
but it's
true.
just another data point that I thought I'd throw out there. Yeah. All right. So what else did we have here today? All right. So we were going to talk about our favorite game based on an IP. All right. And for me, that's easy. It's already been mentioned, and that is Mechs versus Minions. So again, when we were talking about this list, what are my favorite IPs? I did what I normally do. I go to my games that I've rated and I just start looking down the list and I'm looking for IPs and I'm looking and not a whole lot there, but way up at the top of the list, you guys know I really like Mechs versus Minions. So there you go. And I don't really even know the IP. I didn't watch the show. My wife did. I've never played the game. I don't think anybody in my family has played the game. You know, I saw the board game and was like, well, that looks fun, and what a great value it was.
agreed. The production value's off the
yeah.
charts for what was originally a $75 game.
Yeah, that's what
You
I paid
got
for it.
Hundreds of dollars worth of material in that game. It was amazing. And it was a great game. It's one thing to give you 2 or 3 times value in what you get in a box. It's another thing to do that and then give you a great game to play as well. They really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Outro's got a hot take in the chat, calling you out.
The rights are spread out for D&D? Yeah.
Nope. Are you
Mechs vs. Minions is IP related, but don't think it's a good representation of the IP. I don't know. I've never played League of Legends, but it's in the same universe, so yeah.
It's in the same world. And, you know, there's like 12 different regions in there. So there's all kinds of different, which is one of the things I'm kind of following the MMORPG. And it's very early stages. I don't even think they have a name for it yet, but they're talking about like how diverse it could be because all these different regions can be represented and they're all so different. So, you know, that's one of the strengths if they build that stuff out.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, like I said, I've never played League of Legends, so I just assume it's not a MOBA, right? When you're right, isn't League of Legends a MOBA?
It is a MOBA.
But Mechs versus Minions is not a MOBA, is what I
Right.
mean. So yeah, I get it. Like it's not. So you could say it's not a very good representation of the IP because the board game is not a MOBA, right? It's a co-op.
But the IP is not League of Legends. The IP is Runeterra. And
Right,
it is
exactly.
a piece of Runeterra, just like League of Legends is a piece of Runeterra.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, anyway, that's my favorite IP-based game. What did Tiffany have?
Tiffany's favorite IP game is The Legend of Drizzt.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, from that series you mentioned.
From
the
that,
three-game
right, from
series.
the Ashardalon and Ravenloft and Drizzt series. Yeah, and I can't really talk a whole lot about it because I've never played that one.
I mean, it hews closely to. Okay, well, I played Ravenloft, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
and they're all very similar, right? So I think it hews closely to D&D in that it's, you know, you got your characters on the map and they're doing the thing and fighting the thing, and so it's like a D&D session in a board game, right? So
Yeah, agreed. Without a whole lot of the imagination part, you know, like those games are
yeah,
basically
you don't
like
have a DM.
let's jump you into combat kind of a thing. But really, I mean, I've had many philosophical Dungeons and Dragons conversations throughout the course of my life, and a lot of campaigns end up being that anyway. I mean, you spend a couple hours in town talking to people, but then you get into a dungeon that lasts forever. So that's a lot of the game, depending upon how you play, depending upon the world you're playing in, depending upon the DM. Like, there's so many things, but I think it's a very good representation of the combat aspect of that, which for a lot of people is what they enjoy about D&D anyway. So.
All right. Well, what's your favorite game based on an IP?
I bet you could guess.
Oh, War of the Ring.
Yep, War of the Ring has already been mentioned. I absolutely love it. I just think the more into it I get, the more impressed I am by what's going on there. It is simultaneously incredibly true to the source material and also like a playpen where you can kind of test out things and see what would have happened if certain things, kind of a thing. And it's not a sandbox, okay? Because and I like that it's not a sandbox, because I feel like the concept would basically boil down to the same thing. If you've played it 9 or 10 times and it was just kind of a sandbox game, you would end up honing in on, this works, I'm going to do this. This works, I'm going to do this. But the genius of this game is that you use dice to determine what actions you can actually take on any turn. So that forces you to try different things. Like, and general themes are gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, you want to take the ring from Rivendell to the Crack of Doom and throw it in there. Yes, you want to do that. And Sauron wants to defeat the Free Peoples. Yes, of course. But how that's accomplished is like myriad of options of how to get that done. And then plus, like I said, you're working off of these 2 decks of cards, which give you very specific options, and you're using dice, which give you very specific options as to what you can do. So every game is going to play out vastly different than any other game, just because of the different combination of the cards that you see when they come out and the dice that you roll when you get them that only allow you to do certain actions. I just think it's fantastic. Like I said, I can't think of anything. And again, the closest thing, like Rebellion and War of the Ring, are so close in my mind because they're both doing the same thing in these different worlds. And I just think it's amazing how close to the source material they are and still give you this great big world of opportunity and chance to play with. And I just absolutely love it. It's War of the Ring.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to ask me what game best represents its IP, I would say Star Wars Rebellion, but I've never played War of the Ring. I would not say Mechs vs. Minions neutral. All right, JJ, what's your favorite game based on an IP? Or should we guess? Can we guess?
I mean, you can guess.
Is it Marvel Champions?
Actually, no, it's not.
Oh, all right.
You guessed wrong because I don't have a favorite. JJ doesn't do favorites.
JJ doesn't do lists.
I have a favorite mechanic. If it's an IP-based game, because JJ plays a lot of different games, it's definitely not a deck builder. Even though deck builder is my favorite mechanic. And it's not. It's not going to be a Euro game. No, none of that garbage. It's got to be an RPG. I mean, if you're going to do an IP game, you need an RPG version of it. I'll have to say that. So, I mean, Arkham Horror. The Arkham Horror. That's it. Yeah. Star Wars Outer Rim. I need to play Rebellion apparently because I haven't played that yet.
Yeah.
I would prefer if it was sandbox. That would be amazing if they had a sandbox IP. Like, if you're talking about, like, let me get deep into the story of a game, like Western Legends is still the thing. It's just a notch above RPG game. But I played the Warhammer RPG. I forgot what it was called. I don't know anything about Warhammer, but I was playing it. And you had to, like, go around the circle and get to. I was like, let me get all the upgrades first before I go fight the thing and get to the next level. And I forgot what the name was, but I was fully into it. I was like, this is amazing because it's an RPG. It was like a dungeon crawler RPG almost, because you had to, like, get stronger and fight the next boss to get to the next level, yada yada yada. But yeah, if you're gonna do an IP anything, don't look over here. Just ignore all this here. This is we're just gonna
Transformers.
Put has to be an RPG. Don't do a deck builder.
Do you like Firefly? As an IP.
Have I played Firefly? Everybody
No, I mean as an IP.
I think I've only played Battlestar Galactica, and of course, it's not an Aliens game, but whatchamacallit? What's the one?
Oh, Nemesis.
Aliens without the actual name.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to be anything, you have to do something very thematic like that. And Legendary tried to do Aliens and Predator, And it's a deck builder, but you kind of got the feeling of it, but it still wasn't the same thing. Has to be.
No,
like,
I agree. Nemesis is the best Aliens IP game ever, and it's not even the IP. Yes.
All right, you know what? I'm just going to transition to the next thing because I was about to say that about something else.
I'm
Because
just before you do that, I love Firefly. I thought the show was awesome, and I loved the movie. So
yeah, I
just
like
saying.
this. I like the show too, but I haven't.
Oh,
played any
little known
games.
fact. Did anybody know that Jossie Wheaton in there tried to put Spike from Buffy into Firefly? Almost happened.
Yes.
Just little known note.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, so our last topic for today was the IPs that need better games. And I just going to go ahead and jump in because mine's already been mentioned as somebody's favorite. So I sort of disagree on that front. And to me, it is Dungeons and Dragons. Because I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is really rich and there aren't a lot of good games. You mentioned that series like Ravenloft and that series, and there's just meh. Those are okay. I played Infighting, and it's just meh. Lords of Waterdeep is pretty good, but to me, that's about it. To me, the best D&D game isn't a D&D game. Role Player is the best D&D game, and it's
Yeah,
not.
that's true. It's not technically D&D, but it's basically the same idea.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's really
D&D.
good. They got, the Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. That's like the Betrayal at House on the, Betrayal at House on the, that's like the D&D version of that. That's pretty cool.
So,
Yeah, Neutral listed D&D Attack Wing, I guess, which is just a reskin.
Oh
of
yeah,
the
it's like
game.
dragons instead of X-Wing. Like instead of flying ships
Question,
around, you're flying dragons.
Have either of you gone through a whole D&D campaign?
Yeah,
I mean, I played for years.
like the RPG.
It never ended. But
Yeah, I have not. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like D&D. I played when I was a kid. I played as an adult. I think there's just, well, I mean, you can just go anywhere you want because it's an RPG, right? You could always flesh out more and more and more things. But there's, I'm surprised there aren't more better D&D games, and part of it maybe is just the licensing. I don't know, because they've made a lot of weird games. Like Rock Paper Wizard is actually an official D&D game, I think.
Yeah, Three Dragon Ante. It's like D&D card game, like official.
I tried to license D&D for a board game once upon a time, but it's Hasbro, right? Or whatever. So it's not so easy to do that. So maybe that's part of the problem, but I don't know, right? Like I wish there were better D&D games. I feel like there is a lot of lore that could be explored in different types of games. I think there's a lot of, sort of how they have all these different.
Well, very similar
races
to
and
what JJ was
classes
saying
and
with
whatever.
Marvel is like there's all these different like dimensions of D&D as well. Like I mean, you got your standard D&D, but then there's also I guess like Neverwinter's kind of part of I don't know. I'm not deep enough into all of that to know, but
and maybe its real problem is fantasy as a sort of category basically grew out of D&D, right? Like fantasy as a category didn't really exist before Lord of the Rings and then, D&D. So there's so many things that are just generic D&D. Why bother going licensed D&D when you can just do generic
yeah, that's
fantasy
true.
and not
You don't
pay
really
for
have
it?
to nail the IP. You can just call things orcs and trolls and nobody's going to sue you. So,
Yeah, exactly. Why pay Hasbro a bunch of money to make Role Player, right?
Wizards of the Coast is what Neutral said.
Yeah, which
yeah,
is
that's
owned by
true.
Hasbro
I'll,
currently.
I'll just note that the only reason why I know anything about D&D is because of Stranger Things.
Vecna, right? Did you see? There's a new game at least for the Quest 3 where you could play as Vecna to get revenge on the other people.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah,
I saw that they're
interesting.
coming out with a Vecna's like high level like adventure campaign.
Yeah,
for
they're like
actual
leaning
D&D.
into being the bad guy. Like, that's interesting. But yeah, so there was some rumor about Hasbro potentially selling Wizards of the Coast to Tencent, was it? One of the Chinese game developing big houses. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But yeah, it's complicated. They don't just license their IP out like candy like Star Wars does. So, whatever. And I assume Marvel is licensed out like candy about the same way. They're both Disney now, right? So
It's Disney, yeah.
I think
Except for
Disney
little
bought
pieces
the
of it, like JJ
publishers
said,
is
like
what's going on.
Sony owns Spider-Man, but
But no, it's only for the movies in the TV shows. Very specific. Don't have me nerding out on contracts, okay? Don't have me getting started.
Well,
That's a different video.
we didn't mention it, but Lord of the Rings has that strange bifurcation.
Yes,
too,
I didn't
where
get into it,
the
but
actual
yes.
book Lord of the
There's
Rings is
basically
a different
two
IP
different
than the
things going on.
movies.
Yes. Yes.
Which is also
exactly.
completely different than Amazon's show. That's like a completely different thing. They're
Are
not
y'all
really
trying to
related.
trigger me right now? Don't get me started on these contracts. This is
Different
why
video,
movies,
different video.
Animated movies are better than the live action movies.
No.
Don't get me started on this.
Okay, but Amazon is not different than those two. They licensed one of those two, and I think it was the book.
He's doing it. He's doing it. He's doing it.
No, but Erock said there's a third, and it's not a third. There's only two.
Yeah. No, I feel like Peter Jackson got the rights to the books. I don't know what Amazon's
All
doing.
I said was Amazon licensed one of the two. It's not a third. They licensed one of the other two. But anyway.
Weird.
Don't
get JJ started.
Yes, don't get JJ started, except that I need to hear from him what IP he thinks needs better games.
All right, I'm going to take everybody's time here, so you guys just y'all. All right, I'm going to make this short and sweet because I've rambled on enough. Because as the resident geek in the group, I would love to see two things that would have better games in general. They've been trying to do it for literally decades now. There's a whole entire game like Renegade, like restoration games, but it's called Japanime games that have tried to do this. One, and then also these people over here have tried to do it as well. And that is take an 80s or 90s TV show or toy thing and try to make it a game, and also anime. I would be the resident anime representative in the group. Now, you can have your things that there's some good stuff out there. I mean, there's some that are okay, but like they've tried and it just hasn't worked. To take
I agree
Robotech,
with you.
for example.
I can't think of a
They
good
tried
anime
to make a
board
game, multiple games. This Japanime company, they all suck. Okay, and Hasbro is doing something. Okay, and y'all know JJ's big Transformers Power Rangers. I'm going to buy every set. I gave up on GI Joe. I just couldn't do it. I'll let Lloyd take care of that. But Power Rangers and Transformers, they make good deck builders. Not great. So can we get an 80s TV show IP or an anime thing? Like, there's so many animes, and like all the board games suck.
Didn't
I
Netflix
don't
just
understand.
spend a fortune?
Not counting Pokemon, but I mean, yeah.
Didn't Netflix just spend a fortune on the Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Not an anime. That is an American anime. That is different. Do not get me started on the technicalities. It is an American anime that they use Japanese anime techniques to make, but it is in America, from America. Not the same. And the Avatar games have sucked too. Don't
Well,
get me
I was
started on the video
wondering.
games.
I was wondering that since they spent a lot of money on it, if there would be games to follow, because you know how these media companies are.
Just make an RPG. I don't understand. Okay, so Hasbro has done tabletop of the Transformers, Power Rangers, and GI Joe, which I have not played, but they're making money from it. And there is a co-op of the Power Rangers and the GI Joe. They both suck. So, and I don't play tabletop RPGs. I would play it just because it's Transformers. Somebody's like, I'm gonna DM this. I need people. I would do it to try, but I can't cuss enough. I need to cuss, but I'm not going to. It's ridiculous. How long is it? Like, anime's been around since the 60s, 50s. Still can't come up with a board game that's any decent. Okay, but anyways, that was it. I'll stop randomly for now. Do not get me started on contracts.
All right. Well, so did Tiffany tell you what IP she felt needed better
Yes.
games?
Tiffany chose Charmed, which is a nostalgic favorite series of hers. And to be fair, I don't think there's like anything.
There's
so
probably nothing.
There is a
probably not
Charmed.
crossover.
I think it's Legendary Charmed.
What?
Okay.
Really?
I think so.
Really?
Don't quote me on that because they did Buffy, because they had Legendary Buffy, and I think
Yeah.
they did Charmed as well.
Interesting.
I knew there were some.
We'll have to look into that.
Okay, they had a newer Charm that came out, the TV show. It only lasted like 3 seasons, but listen. I am an old school fan. If I don't see, okay, yeah, I need the original 3 on there. Okay, so
There's something
they
called
did it, though.
Charmed: The Book of Shadows,
okay,
which is really poorly rated. There were some of these like slap the name on some crap game, right? There were some of those. I'm not getting
That's
any
a game?
legendary. Yeah, I mean, There's
okay.
Yeah, there's some garbage. I mean, I just did a quick search. I'm just getting some.
She has like the
garbage.
DVD box set and everything, you know.
Did she
I
like
don't
the
even
new
think we have a
TV show is
DVD
the
player
question.
anymore.
Did she like the new TV show is the question.
Does she like the new TV show?
Did she like it? Liked in
No.
the past. It's over now, but
No, she did not like the new TV show.
makes sense. That's why it ended.
That's her foot right there.
It came and went. I didn't even know.
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
take
even
off
know it
the-
was a thing.
Martin, you put that in there. And he's in both chats. But when I saw the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that's exactly what I felt like. Because I knew about contracts when this episode came out. And I'm like, with my partner at the time, I was like, yeah, that exactly is how it looks like when you talk about movie licenses. But yes, anyway, sorry. Yes, that was perfectly sent there, Martin. Exactly. Charlie talking about contracts.
And thanks for Neutral. I was having a problem coming up with all the different D&D dimensions, but and he's right. All of these. It's Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, Greyhawk, Spelljammer, Dark Sun. Like these are all different D&D worlds. So the depth is there.
All right, Erock, what do you want to see better games from?
Okay, so I have kind of a dual answer to this. The first answer is kind of cheating because really, I just want better games out of the three that are my favorite already that I've mentioned. I mentioned that this is kind of a corollary of there are also a lot of bad games in all of those categories. So knock it off with the bad games and just make the good games is what I'm saying. All right, but my actual thing that has a name that I'm choosing is I'm going with Runeterra. I'm so impressed with everything that they've done so far. But to me, it's not enough. So give me more. Give me more of that stuff. You guys are doing a great job. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. Give me more. So that's my I wish there was more is Runeterra.
Yeah, I mean, because there's just the one.
Yeah, there's the one game. There's the one computer game. Like, come on, give us some more stuff. You're impressing me. Don't leave me hanging out here.
Yeah, I don't. Are there any good MOBA style board games? There's got to be, right?
I mean, there's some tower defense style things for
Well,
sure.
I don't even know
That's
how
different.
that works. I've not played one
mean-
yet, but how do you copy the tower defense into a board game? That's crazy.
Well, there's plenty of tower defense.
It's
board
been
games.
done here and there. I
I
think
didn't
the probably
say there weren't. I'm saying, are they any good?
Yeah, I
probably the
think-
closest thing to an actual MOBA would be something like Cloudspire.
I haven't played Cloudspire, but tower defense. Castle Panic is a classic, which there's a Star Trek version of, by the way. Star Trek Panic, which I think is better. So there's at least that. But there are other tower defense style games. I designed one once upon a time.
As I said, I know they're out there. Are they any good?
Yeah, I
would
just said
say-
Castle Panic and Star Trek Panic are good.
Yeah.
Have
you
played
played-
them?
Cloudspire is actually
Played a
really
mobile
good.
tower defense game?
Yeah, I've played a tower defense game, but I mean, what
No,
is
I'm
a
talking about on your phone, mobile version.
Yeah, a long time ago. I just don't really
man.
care that much.
Oh,
But
man.
I mean,
Okay, that answers your.
so like in Castle Panic, there's a tower and you defend it from bad guys that keep rushing it. Like it's a tower defense game, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Like I said, is it any good? That's my question.
Yeah.
That's a
and it's
rhetorical
good.
question. Rhetorical question.
Have you played it?
Yeah.
You've played
Yeah.
Castle Panic? Well, you don't like
Yeah.
co-ops. It's a
Yeah.
co-op.
Man.
Yeah, but anyway, a MOBA isn't like a tower defense, right? I mean, it's
I mean, it is
massive
and it
online
isn't.
battle arena. You're all trying to fight and kill each other, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but there's like waves that are like
yeah,
so you gotta
and also there's
you know.
different MOBA games. Like Overwatch is a MOBA, but it's not like League of Legends. So there's different modes. So like you could do
what's
different
Valve's Dota, you know.
games. Yeah, all those different things. Yeah, those are
That's what I'm
League of
saying. I
Legends
think
like, but then they're
the
different.
closest thing to it is probably Cloudspire, which is it's a really good game, but it's by Chip Theory, so it's like so in depth about everything all the time. Like we played it and we just kind of bounced off of it because just like Too Many Bones, like everybody has these sheets of things for their faction, and I don't know how your stuff works, and you don't know how my stuff works, and it takes a whole lot of effort. But if you really wanted to get into it, you should probably check out Cloudspire.
There are some other games because I've heard other people talk about them. I just can't think of the names because I haven't played them or seen them. Where you're just wiping out waves of crap, waves. I mean, like every turn you just kill dozens and dozens and dozens of little minion things. I mean, there are older games that are sort of like that. Like, what was the Warhammer game? Death
And
Angel.
it's not exact, but Mechs versus Minion is kind of like that. Like the
Yeah.
minions in there are just waves and waves and waves, and you
I
got to
agree.
fight them off,
But remember Space Hulk Death Angel card game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that, right? You just
Yeah.
got to fight off these waves of...
Space Hulk even. Space Hulk is like
I haven't
that.
played Space Hulk, but yeah. Yeah.
Which is just kind of like Nemesis 20 years ago. Space Hulk.
But anyway, I mean, they could do all those kind of things with this Runeterra universe, right? So,
Yes, absolutely. There's so many possibilities.
and their second game was none of that. It was like a dumb memory game.
I haven't played that one.
No, yeah, there's a reason why, right? Like they followed up this really awesome, big, huge production with this like dopey little memory game, and everybody was like, "What?" And it was bad, Like I don't know, unless you like playing memory, I guess, then you'll like it. I don't know. What was that game even called? There's a new game out called Bloodstones, so I always think, oh, Bloodstones, but that's not it. It's something else. Man, I'm gonna look it up because I want to see what it's rated. Maybe I'm saying it's awful and it's like one of the highest rated games and we just don't know it. I don't know.
Was it Valorant? Or is that the...
No.
that looks like a shooter.
It's called Tellstones King's Gambit. It is currently rated as a 5.7.
You talking about Valorant? No, that's a battle royale game.
Yeah.
That's like Fortnite.
But I was
I wish there was a board game version of a battle royale. That would be amazing.
The second board game that came from Riot was Tellstones, and I don't even know if it was in that. It is Runeterra. Variants of Tellstones are played throughout Runeterra, apparently. So it has a loose, sort of like maybe Sabacc is a Star Wars game, right?
Oh yeah, and the Witcher one, the card game, Gwent, like that's a separate thing now, but
I've never played that. I did enjoy playing Sabacc in the Knights of the Old Republic video game, though. So, and I guess you could just buy Sabacc decks and play the actual game now, right? I don't know. I don't know anybody who
I think
actually
so.
does that, but it was fun to play in the game anyway. I enjoyed it. All right, cool. Did we cover everybody's everything? I jumped around the map a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool. I know, JJ, you want to say something? Something about something.
Oh, there's plenty I want to say.
Yeah.
I get where you need that. When we talk about, I'm pretty sure Erock watches ESPN. But you talking about the 60 Minutes? I don't remember that show, but it's like the thing where they go over all the sports headlines for the day, and that
Sports Center.
Sports Center, maybe, I don't know. And then the last 60 seconds, they go back and clear up all the mistakes that they made in the whole thing.
Oh, that one. That's like with Tony Reale, and there's like two of them back to back. One of them is Around the Horn, and then the next one after that is Tony Reale. I forget what that one's called. But yeah, at the end of that,
I want to
go back and
take
fix
the last
all
60
their
seconds.
mistakes.
Yeah, let's go back over our errors for the video.
Sorry, when you start talking about sports stuff, all I can think is that gag from 30 Rock where Tracy Jordan was on Sports Yelling. Do you guys remember that? So it was like a sports show, and they had the screen divided in 4 people, and they're all just yelling at each other about sports
that's Around the Horn.
And Tracy
Yeah,
Jordan
just
is
set
just
up
there in
Around
the
the
corner going, "Ah!" It's just sports yelling is the name of the show. Sorry. That's what that was all I could think of while you guys were talking about that. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
Around the Horn.
yeah, I think we jumped the shark here. So I am Steven. That is Erock. That is JJ. We are from Just Got Played. Thanks for joining us. If you want to talk to us while we do these videos, subscribe to the channel. You'll see when they're coming live, and you can come chat with us in the chat. If you want to talk to us when we're not streaming one of these videos, come to our Discord channel. So if you look at the description of the video, there's a link to our Discord channel. You can join us there. But yeah, other than that, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Bye.
Have a beautiful time.
Thank you very much. Yes.